Stay tuned for the Sean Casey Show, a podcast for patriots. Welcome back. It is once again the Sean Casey Show, a podcast for patriots, and I am Sean Casey. Thanks for joining us once again. Thanks for downloading and following the show. And remember, we have audio and video versions now. This is where the resistance meets, in which we are going to try to stop the transformation of our great and exceptional United States of America into the Marxist hellhole that Chairman Joe and Jacqueline Kamala doing the work of Barack Hussein Obama. And I want to transform us into this Marxism form of government, which, of course, we are not going to go in willingly. In fact, we're never going to go there. We're just, we just got to keep the battle up going each and every day. So don't forget the audio version you can consume wherever you download your favorite podcasts, and the video versions available at Rumble, YouTube, and Vimeo. So check those out as well. I just saw that Rumble's going to get one of the debates, I think. I just read that.
Oh,
so
good.
That's going to be interesting. The first big debate in August is going to be on Fox, sadly. But I think the next one is going to be on Rumble. Joining us in this episode, as he does each and every episode, our executive producer, Joe Hosny Armacost.
That's right. And we don't use any of that cheap Chinese artificial intelligence here. Everything that you get here is just natural, good old made in the USA intelligence.
Yes. I'm glad you said that and not artificial.
Okay.
I'll tell you that AI stuff is getting pretty scary. It really is.
It's very scary.
Yeah, very scary. We'll do an episode on that one day. Right now we got some other irons in the fire. Our associate producer and researcher is Double X, Michelle Drusella. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, guys. It's nice and warm this Wednesday.
Yeah, it is. On the East Coast and the Mid-Atlantic, it's beautiful, sunny.
80s.
And in the low 80s.
Yeah.
It'll be that way for the next couple of days. And now you know how the folks in Florida feel on a regular basis.
Right.
Or in South Texas or in Southern California. So it's a great sunny day on the East Coast, and hopefully it's sunny wherever you are. But if not, we hope to bring a little ray of sunshine into that. We start with our founding fathers quote today, and this is from Benjamin Franklin, and he wrote this on this week in 1787, and he said, quote, "Only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters." I think that's an excellent quote from Benjamin Franklin, because remember, only immoral people can keep and observe the Constitution. Only a virtuous people can maintain freedom. And I think right now we're more on the corrupt scale than we are on the virtuous scale. And that's why these, corruption breeds corruption. What is the saying? Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing right now at every level of our government, from the executive, from the legislative, from the judicial, and something we'll talk about a little bit later on, the fourth branch here as well. Today, some of the topics we're going to cover is I found a very disturbing quote from the member of the European Central Bank, and we're titling our episode today, The Great Resist. You've heard of the Great Reset. Today is the Great Resist, because we're going to have to fight back, because the globalists are on the march. They're on the march after our money, after our property, after our cars, after our way of life, and basically after our freedom. And once we get done explaining to you, I think it's going to be painfully obvious. President Trump now is getting all the media attention, like he did in 2016. He did an interview with Tucker Carlson last night on Fox. We'll excerpt some of the highlights today and on Friday's episode as well. We'll update you on the congressional investigations, on the classified documents, on Hunter Biden, and on the Jim Jordan and the weaponization of government, and Alvin Bragg. We've got that for you, as well as the latest transanity. We've got some incredible stories as we have more folks that are just completely flipped out. They've freaked out. They're just their mental cases, and we've got audio and video proof of that as well. But just touching on a couple of headlines here today before we get into the thrust of the program, because we like to follow these stories, because the media reports them, but they don't analyze them. They don't delve deep in behind the story, if you will. And it's happened again. Our food supply, I believe, is being attacked. Okay. I can't, really reconcile. And as you know, I don't believe in coincidences. Either we have the most incompetent workers or unsafe working conditions in America today, which I don't believe, or somebody is out to poison or get rid of our food supply. And this happened in the Texas Panhandle Monday night. An explosion rocked the South Fork Dairy Farm in Dimmitt, Texas, about 7:30 p.m. A worker was trapped inside. This is a milking facility, was hospitalized, and it looks like that worker is going to be okay. But get this, 22,000 cows were killed. So if you think egg prices are bad, with this kind of stuff, milk prices, and they're milking cows, so it's not beef. But again, it's all interrelated. They continue, whoever's behind this, I believe, to come after our food supply and to drive up inflation, to drive up the inflationary pressures, which will drive our economy into the ground, which is exactly what Chairman Joe and Kathleen Kamala want. So now maybe the fire marshals are investigating, and maybe I'll have to stand corrected. They'll find some other excuse. But this is happening way too frequently for it to be an accident, I think. Then we did an episode just a couple episodes ago called Trans Terror. It has happened again. A 30-year-old male transsexual has been charged with fatally stabbing a taxi driver in Portland on Easter Sunday. The victim was a longtime cab driver. And again, we're still trying to make sense of all this, but we don't know if there's a dispute over a fare. But once again, we have this incredible rage and aggression that is being exhibited on the part of some of these individuals who are either changing their gender or want to be another gender.
And if people want to kill, they're going to kill. They're going to find a way. They're going to find a tool to do it.
Whether it's an assault, quote unquote, weapon, which is a semi-automatic, or an assault knife. What's the next thing now? They're going to stop. You're going to have to do a background check for a block of knives. Who knows? And the deserter, as he is known, Bo Bergdahl, has apparently won a partial win in his case. He's trying to get his conviction erased and his sentence reduced. And a federal judge has ruled partially in favor of Bo Bergdahl. This is the guy that we swapped. Remember, he deserted on his unit. The Taliban captured him. Who knows what treasure trove of material he got from the Taliban. But Obama then swapped 5 terrorists out of Gitmo, 4 of which went back onto the battlefield to kill Americans, to kill other people. This senior judge, Reggie Walton, who's a piece of work, issued this partial win at Bergdahl's motion for summary judgment on his claim that the military judge who presided over his case did not disclose he had applied for a civil position at the Justice Department while the court-martial was underway. A failure that Bergdahl's arguing denies him a fair trial. So this would be a technicality. But boy, if this federal judge in D.C. screws up, and it looks like he may have, added to the list of other outrages according to the J6 prisoners that have been, equally inconvenienced. And I don't believe got due process as we now are, over 600 days, 800 days of them being held captivity in the American gulag called the D.C. Gitmo. So just some headlines and things that we cover that you don't normally see in the rest of the manufactured news or the alphabet news networks. All right, now on to the Great Resist. You've heard of the Great Reset. We've devoted episodes to it on this program. This is where the globalists want to wrest control and power. They want a new world order. They want, again, to be able to control the middle class. They want the United States to give up its sovereignty and control everything they do. They will be the lords on high, and the rest of us will live in serfdom. And remember the phrase that keeps coming out of the World Economic Forum and out of Davos and the rest of these globalist organizations: you will own nothing and you will be happy. And there are 3 things they need to attack in order to achieve that. Number 1, our sovereignty. And already Chairman Joe is cooperating with that, with erasing our southern border. Our northern border now is looking a little civ-like, and our economy has to crash in order to replace it with something else. So I think we're probably about halfway there, and hopefully that can be stopped in 2024 by former President Trump. The other thing is property and our vehicles, because Americans are a free bunch. We love our free travel and transportation. And of course, we love being able to own our property. And then the others are cash and our money. And if you're not familiar with the term CBDC, it's not the oil that people use. That's CBD. This is CBDC, central bank digital currency. This is the future that the globalists want to take us into. They want to be able to be a cashless society, that you will not be, there'll be no need for cash. There'll be no need to spend cash, that everything will be crypto, or digital currency. And right now, Biden has signed an executive order trying to get us to that point where we will incentivize us and push us into using crypto or digital currency. Europe is already there. And I want to play a little bit of a clip for you. This is she's the president of the European Central Bank. Her name is Christine Lagarde. Now, if that sounds familiar, she's also she is was with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. She is a globalist from the get-go, rubbing shoulders with the Soroses and the Bill Gates of the world and the Jamie Dimons. More on him coming up in just a second. But listen carefully. She's talking. She's got pranked in this call by a guy that was pretending to be Volodymyr Zelensky, all right, the Ukrainian president. And so he's asking about what he was calling the electronic euro, which is really another word for the digital currency. And she's arguing because he's concerned about how do you control people? Won't you be able to control people with an electronic currency? And listen to what her response was. Now, her response is legit in this prank call, and it's very, very scary.
Now we have in Europe this threshold above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. If you do, you are on the gray market. So you take your risk. You get caught, you are fined, or you go in jail. But you know, the digital euro is going to have a limited amount of control. There will be control. You're right. You're completely right. We are considering whether for very small amounts, you know, anything that is around 300, 400 euros, we could have a mechanism where there is zero control. But that could be dangerous.
So there it is.
Look at Joe's face.
You have a limit. Yeah.
Yeah.
In using the euro right now, you have a limit of 1,000 euros. If you spend cash, if you spend over that amount, you can go to jail. Those are the European under the European Union laws and rules on central bank digital currency.
And it's like 20 years or something. It's like a long, long time.
Yeah. And the reason they're giving you for is because I think that attack by the French terrorists in Paris, I think they did everything on charge cards. So their argument is they want to be able to track all currency, and it's not in time. If you're using
which we know is bull crap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is bull crap. This is about control.
Right.
This is about knowing what everybody's spending on, and being able to control that. For instance, if you're about to buy what they would deem let's just put it, you're a gas guzzler, okay? If they're even around in another 5 years. If you're about ready to buy something that is not friendly to the environment or could be deemed as a weapon of war, or, you know, you're going to get this social score. We've talked about the ESG nonsense, right?
In their subjective view, it could be anything at any time.
Anything.
Anything at any time.
They would be able to say, no, you're not able to buy that. So that's the end game here. That's the goal. They not only want to control who has the cash, or in this case, who has the digital currency. They want to control how you use it, what you use it on, what kind of lifestyle you're going to have. And who knows, maybe they'll say that even if you're a millionaire, you can only spend X amount a year. I mean, this is where we're heading.
But we don't know what they spend it on. But they're above us. Us piss ants. Yes.
And something that I saw last night was that there is a Fed Now website where a lot of our payments they were trying to get our payments to go through so they can monitor what we spend our money on.
Right. And that's all part of it. This is all part of this globalist, central bank digital currency. So we have our Fed participating in this or trying to get this done. This is where the Biden executive order comes into place. The table is being set. The foundation is being laid to force us into a cashless society. And once they do that, then everybody gets, you might be familiar with ESG, environment, social, environmental social governance. You get a credit score. This is already happening in the CCP in China, where again, you earn credits, on stuff the government says is okay, that they approve. Then you get a good score. If you don't get a good score, then they limit how much you can spend. They punish you for basically buying what you want to buy with your hard-earned money. So that's the future. And along with that, you have the DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is ruining so many different establishments like our military, like schools. And something else people don't realize, we'll get to this later on in the show, CEI is the other. This is another scheme run by the Human Rights Campaign. It stands for Corporate Equity Index. And what that is, they put pressure on corporations. That's why an Anheuser-Busch would adopt a Bud Light campaign that is pro transgender, because they're getting pressured by the Human Rights Campaign under their CEI score. And if you get a bad score, then come other social pressures with that. And the corporations now that are woke because of this. So there are people and movers and shakers behind this. We're still investigating Human Rights Campaign to find out who's funding it and who's running it. We'll report on that in the future. But this is where we're headed.
I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I read it about 4 weeks ago or so. But next to China, the United States has the most surveyed population in the world. We're just number 2 to China.
And that's entirely believable based on the CIA, the NSA, and the rest of these spy agencies that have been turned, the Patriot
Act. All of your phone calls.
Everything is gathered up, scooped up. And not only by the government, but privately. If you have an Alexa, if you have any kind of a device that can listen in, I do have one, but I unplug it. When I want to use it to listen to music or listen to something, I plug it in, listen to it. When I'm done, I unplug it.
There's a lady on Reels, and she said that she laid down to take a nap, and Alexa said, "Can I play something for you to help you get to sleep?" And it was like, how did Alexa even know she was laying down?
It could have picked up the noise of if it was sheets or rustling
maybe, but
fabric.
Still, that's weird.
It's always listening. It is always listening and monitoring. And that is the problem with the smart home. You can be outsmarted by the government.
Right. I'm too freaking smart.
That's AI right there.
It really is. Next up now, so that's the cash. That's the cash scheme. Next up is private property. Private property is one of the fundamentals of American society. When you own a piece of land, you own it. It's yours to do with whatever you want within good reason.
Unless you don't pay the taxes on it.
Right.
This woke banking, try not paying your property tax, see what happens. But this woke banking executive, Jamie Dimon, he's got other ideas. At the head of J.P. Morgan Chase, he is a frequent attendee of all the globalist Bilderberg group. Dimon basically wants to make the world into a UN-friendly socialist state. So his latest letters to shareholders spells it out, saying that eminent domain may need to be used to take away people's private property. Save the planet, seize the land. That's what he wants to do. As the head of J.P. Morgan Chase, is worth about $1.5 billion. Dimon wields immense power. He rubs shoulders with all these people, like I mentioned, Soros, Barack Obama, and he's got big plans. In a letter to the shareholder, he said the federal government and the banks, like his, Chase Bank, may have to do their part to stop climate change by seizing the land, your land, my land. He actually wrote that and put his signature at the bottom of a letter to shareholders. This is not a trick or misinterpretation on my part or some kind of gimmick to get downloads or whatever. I'm telling you the truth. We traffic in the truth here. Dimon said that in order for solar, wind, and other renewable energy to get built, the government now is going to, and the banks may likely have to override private property rights and force sellers to give them their land.
Doesn't sound constitutional.
We once thought it was, but Kelo versus New London solved that when the Supreme Court case came in. It used to be you could take private land. It was called a just takings clause with fair compensation for government or for the good of the people, the common, the overall welfare of the people. And it's always been for public use, like interstates and things of that nature. But now it was being used, and Kilo versus New London was the first where it was used for a private healthcare consortium or some such nonsense. So this is not only possible, it is becoming increasingly likely as the Biden regime is now edging into full totalitarian insanity. That's what we're dealing with here. And again, this is, you'll get an offer for your land. But what if you don't want to sell it?
It's not going to be that much either. They don't give you what
no, they don't,
it's
they
worth.
don't give you like 2 times the cost. You're lucky if you get 1.5 times the cost. And he says, Diamond says, it's time to force the green energy and climate agenda because global climate change will kill us all if we don't submit. Okay, sounds like another fascist group I know. Islam, I think, means to submit.
I wonder how many homes Chris Diamond owns. Maybe we can start with his first.
Yeah, start with his. Start and let him give up all his mansions and all his holdings. But we know the globalists don't work like that.
No, I know.
So let's be clear about what's happening here. Okay, this is the Maoist madness at its worst, of the worst kind. During Mao's takeover of China, those of us that are students of history, he encouraged murder and violence against the Chinese people, against landowners. He leveraged poor against the rich. There was the Red Guard. If you were speaking out against the regime, you were sent to re-education camps. And if you did not, toe the line, you were executed. Now, I'm not saying we're there yet, but this is the kind of stuff that bothers me. Those of us that are students of history, you either learn from it or you're doomed to repeat it.
And it's happening really, really fast now.
Yeah, it is. So that's the cash and the property. Next are your cars. And today we learned that Biden regime's EPA is now cracking down on gas cars, pushing the electric vehicles. This is his latest power grab, which, by the way, the new tailpipe emission rules will impact car models 2027 through 2032. The regulations require automakers to ensure a massive 56% greenhouse gas emissions reduction in by the next 9 years or so, and that is compared to vehicle models in 2026. So basically, they're forcing automakers and companies to produce electronic alternative vehicles to comply with this EPA rule and regulation. So if you have a gas-powered car, you might be, it depends on when you buy it. 2026 could be one of the last model years ever.
Which, again, is about control and spying on you.
Right. Internal combustion engine, and they want to control your travel. They want to make it less convenient. And I just keep asking this question. Where is the electric grid is already troubled. Where are we going to get all this new electricity generated from since we'll be giving up gas and going to EVs?
They won't. They'll cut us back. They'll
Right.
say, "Oh, we don't have enough electric today. You just won't have
Can't travel today." Remember odd and even gas days for those of us who were working and driving in the 70s during the Arab oil embargo. You're going to have odd even commute days. Or we're going to get to a position where most everybody's going to be working out of their home, controlled by a computer, and the money that you earn, that'll be controlled. Your travel will be controlled, and you'll be living in a track somewhere that you don't own. Remember, you will own nothing and be happy. So it's all coming together right now, and that's I'm sad to report that. I think we can still fight it. What we have to do is we got to make sure that Joe Biden is not only defeated in 2024, but we have to take the left down permanently. And that's an even tougher battle. But it's one I think we can do because other countries have done it, other societies have done it. They voted out or got rid of totalitarian regimes and tasted freedom. But for some strange reason, it always keeps gravitating back to that because what they do is they infiltrate your country, your government, your society, and they make it rot from within. And you'll hear what Donald Trump says about that in just a second. All right, you've heard about these leaks that have been coming out of the Defense Department.
Yeah,
some of these
crazy.
leaks say that the Ukrainian counteroffensive ain't cutting it, and they're losing badly. Another one of the leaks says we have spies deep within the Russian government and the Russian military that have been reporting back to us on Russian armaments and Russian movements, and we've been given that intel back to the Ukrainians. That's one of the reasons why they may have been able to last this long against the Russian war machine. And this is all apparently come out in some gamer chat room. Discord, I think, is the social.
They said platform. Egypt is helping Russia, and
right. There's all sorts of nasty
underhanded stuff. Yeah.
But the thing that caught my eye was that this latest document dump in which U.S. and NATO presence has been confirmed in Ukraine, and ground forces have been confirmed in Ukraine, according to these leaked documents. Now, they're saying they're U.S. special forces that are operating in the country, and I've always believed that they've been there in some way, shape, or form. But now, John Kirby, the mouthpiece for the DOD and actually the National Security Council, he is out there saying that, oh, no, these aren't special operators. These aren't, the special forces. They're there just helping protect diplomatic staff.
There is a small U.S. military presence at the embassy in conjunction with the defense attaché's office to help us work on accountability of the material that is going in and out of Ukraine. So they're attached to that embassy and to that defense attaché.
All right, so they send, that's the cover. Okay, the cover is they're sent in as a defense attaché. They're helping track armaments, or they're protecting embassy staff, which is usually a special security detail that comes out of the State Department, not out of the DOD. If you remember the movie Benghazi, 13 Hours, some of those guys were sent there. They were State Department security details, and not they did send in the Defense Department later, the military later. By then it was too late. But Kirby says they are not fighting. I tell you, believe me when I tell you, they're not fighting.
They are not fighting on the battlefield. We are not providing enabling support on the battlefield. Nothing has changed about the Commander-in-Chief's order that the United States will not have troops fighting this war in Ukraine.
Anybody believe him?
I was going to say,
No.
Why would anybody? But they've lied about everything since before day one. Why would?
You're right. They've lied about everything. Why wouldn't they lie about this? And why now? Why now are they telling us the truth? Because the leaks are out, and this is CYA. Why not be upfront with the American people? And because this question has come up before, and they've categorically denied that there was going to be any kind of boots on the ground in Ukraine, and then they had to admit, there are advisors there, and now they're more than just advisors. They're tracking where these weapons are going, and dollars to donuts. If they're tracking where the weapons are going, they're making sure they're being properly used. And who knows? They may actually be assisting in the use of said weapons. So I'm sorry, I don't believe the Biden regime. I don't believe you, Admiral Kirby. I think it's a horrible thing to say to anybody who's in a position of authority in our government, but I think you guys have proven that you lie more than you tell the truth. So that's the latest out of Ukraine. Now to President Trump, who is just amazing. He has, in the last month or so, sucked all the air out of the room. He's getting all sorts of media coverage now. He's dominating, just like he did in 2016. And you can see it's having a dividend. His poll numbers are through the charts. He's got a 30-point lead on Ron DeSantis. He's raised $15 million in the last 2 weeks. And he is dominating news cycles everywhere you go. And he did again last night. He was in New York. He had to testify. Still yet another investigation. This is in the fraud investigation of the Trump Organization. New York Attorney General Letitia James is the latest to target Trump and go after him. But he was with Tucker, and the former president responded to a question that how did it feel having to go in and be the first former president of the United States to be indicted by a grand jury in the United States. Here was his response.
Well, it was a horrible thing because I did nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. You look at even the pundits and the legal analysis, Greg Jarrett, all of these really talented people, they're saying he didn't do anything wrong. So that's number one. Number two, they were incredible. When I went to the courthouse, which is also a prison in a sense, they signed me in. And I'll tell you, people were crying. People that work there, professionally work there, that have no problems putting in murderers, and they see everybody. It's tough place. And they were crying. They were actually crying. They said, I'm sorry. They'd say, 2024, sir, 2024. And tears are pouring down their eyes. I've never seen anything like those people are phenomenal. Those are your police.
Yep.
Those are the people that work at the courthouse. They're unbelievable people. Many of them were in tears or close to it. Many apologists were sorry, sir. We're sorry. They had to have me do certain things. They said, sir, I can't believe I have to ask you. I can't even believe that I have to ask you to do it. You could see. So in one sense, it was beautiful because they get it. In another sense, it's nasty. I went to the Wharton School of Finance. They didn't teach me about that.
Sure they didn't. And this is why Trump resonates with the forgotten man and woman of America. He's a man of the people. Because you can see that the people, the workers, the rank and file, the NYPD Blue, the clerks, the courthouse workers, they were apologetic. They themselves were sad. This was a sad day for the country, and they were just doing their jobs, and he understood that, and so he identified, and he doesn't hold any animosity towards any of those people, just knowing they're just Americans trying to do their jobs. Alvin Bragg and the rest of those radical leftist prosecutors and persecutors, that's another story. But, he did make the point that this is really the epitome, and we've seen it by many federal agencies, the weaponization of the American government against, in this case, a former president, but it's happening against all of us. And we'll get to that in just a second. But here's what he's told Tucker about that.
This is all weaponization. They're weaponizing our justice system, Tucker. And they think if they go and give you a subpoena, I guess I'm very well known and people understand it and they get it. And maybe I have a bigger platform so I can explain it. But if you're somebody, a Republican, let's say, running for office and you get a subpoena, you might as well resign because you're not going to be able to survive it. And the voters aren't going to handle it. The voters aren't going to take it. What they're doing is weaponizing the system, and there's never been anything like it. And it's all disinformation.
And it is all disinformation. It started as disinformation. It continues to be disinformation. But stop and think for just a second. How many average people or even elected officials would be able to afford all the attorneys, all the legal expenses that he has been forced to endure since the day he came down that golden escalator in Trump Tower?
Bankrupt General Flynn. I mean, and a lot of them, Roger Stone.
He did it so his son wouldn't be bankrupted and his family wouldn't be bankrupted, but that's what they do. Paul Manafort and others. Donald Trump's got the money, and that's why he's able to do it.
Yep.
Nobody else would be able to withstand this kind of barrage. Nobody. And if he can stand his own government firing everything they can at him, he says in this interview, he had a working relationship with Putin. They got along. Same with Xi. Same with Kim Jong-un. He has a different way of negotiating. He looks at things differently. I think if you look at the whole interview, his nuance of foreign policy, I think, is much greater than what he is given credit for.
Oh, yeah. The left gave him no credit, of course. But, I mean, they also villainized him along with, being friends with Putin and Kim Jong-un, and that was, horrible that they did that to him.
The Chinese won't return Joe Biden's calls.
No respect.
And Kim Jong-un, he has no interest in talking to either Obama or Biden, but he talked to Trump.
Yeah,
why is that? Ask yourself, why did he talk to Trump? Why did Xi? And Xi, I think, unfortunately, Trump was cleaning his clock, and that's why the bioweapon was cooked up. That guy has a special place in hell for Xi Jinping. But you're right. They villainize and demonize him, and they continue to do so to this day. Last week, Joe Biden, through his lapdog, Admiral Kirby, tried to blame the botched Afghanistan withdrawal on President Trump. And Trump brought that up in the interview last night.
Afghanistan, one of the worst things I've ever seen. I think the most embarrassing moment that this country's ever had, frankly, the way we got out. Not the getting out. We had to get out. It was ridiculous to be there. And I had that so good, so tight, so tough. I spoke to the leader, Abdul. I said, Abdul, if you do anything, you're going to get hit really hard. Literally, he said, but sir, why? Why? He goes, why, oh, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you'll have to figure that one out, Abdul. But we didn't have one death in 18 months. He knew. Not one death. And then to see the way we got out, like we were surrendering, like taking the military out first, leaving $85 billion worth of equipment behind, giving up Bagram. I was going to keep Bagram. I was getting out, but not for Afghanistan. It's 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. It's one of the biggest Air Force bases in the world, I think the biggest, with runways that go 10,000 feet. I was keeping that because of China, not because of Afghanistan.
Right. How about that story about Abdul? Why are you showing me pictures of my house? You attack one of our soldiers? One.
Yeah.
You harm a hair on one of our soldiers' head?
We know where you are.
Yeah. I got a picture of your house right here. So, and that was effective because there were no attacks until Biden botched it. And Trump was incredulous. He was saying, sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden, they're blaming him. And he said that really, it kind of takes the cake because this, as you heard, is the single most embarrassing moment in our history. And of course, Joe Biden couldn't possibly take ownership of that. So let's just blame good old Donald Trump.
The other day I hear, it was Trump's fault. Oh, that's right. It was Trump. I was gone for a long. I would have been out faster than them. We would have had all the equipment. We would have had the American citizens. We left hostages. We left Americans behind. Many, I think many more than you think. And we had 13 soldiers killed. And nobody ever mentions the fact that we had many maimed so badly. No arms, no legs. Their face was obliterated. This is the way this guy got out. We would have gotten out with dignity and strength. We were going to. But I was taking 100% of, I said, I want every nail. I want every screw. I want the tents. They said, sir, the tents are very hard to take out. I said, I want the tents. I want the tanks. I want the planes. I want everything. And a couple of them fought me on it, like Millie. He said, sir, I think it's cheaper to leave the equipment behind. I said, let me ask you, we have a plane that cost $100 million. It's sitting there. All it needs is a tank of gas, right? Give me a little jet fuel. We'll fly it to Pakistan or any place else, or we'll fly it directly home. You say it's cheaper to leave a $100 million plane? Sure, I think overall it's cheaper. These are idiots we're dealing with. They left $85 billion worth of equipment. They left our American citizens behind.
He tells it like it is, and they are. They're idiots. Millie, McKenzie, the rest of the woke warriors running the Pentagon these days, they're absolute idiots. So we'll have more from the Trump-Tucker interview, including what he thinks is more important about global warming, or more dangerous, I should say, than global warming. It's coming up on Friday's show. But earlier this week, we found out that Biden was in on the unprecedented, unnecessary, and unlawful raid on Trump's iconic home, Mar-a-Lago. Now we know that Biden was totally behind the raid because he had to remove President Trump's executive privilege so the raid could occur. Now, who has the power to do that?
The president.
Right. Only Joe Biden could do that. So now you wonder, well, if he removed the executive privilege, he either A, knew about it, which he has already been caught in a lie, or two, maybe he ordered it. And that, we're zeroing in on that, folks. We don't have a smoking gun yet. But and this is the same group that, remember, they were sitting in the White House, Obama, Biden, Susan Rice, James Clapper, John Brennan, Jim Comey, and the rest of them, and they decided they were going to spy on Trump's candidacy. And they were going to go after General Flynn. They wanted to get General Flynn on the Logan Act. That was Biden's suggestion. These people are evil. So before you say, no way, I think it's more likely that Joe Biden ordered it. Because he said recently he would do everything in his power to make sure Donald Trump did not return to power in the president's office. And now we're finding out. So Congressman James Comer, he's hot on the trail of some other classified documents. He talked about one document he's interested in particular.
We're very concerned about one document in particular that the president's son emailed to some of his associates on the whole Burisma deal in Ukraine. We know that there was a classified document at the Biden residence that pertained to Ukraine. We know that there's a document on the president's son's email that's very suspicious.
Suspicious indeed. And we'll have to wait and see if we get it and what it means. But we're not getting much cooperation, or he's not getting much cooperation from some of the other U.S. attorneys and others out there as well. And also what he's calling the fourth branch of government.
You know, there are supposed to be three branches of government. What's happened in the last 10 years, there's a fourth branch, and that's the government bureaucracy. And there's no oversight of this bureaucracy. It gets worse every day.
But it's worse than the government bureaucracy. This is the CIA, the NSA, and other intel agencies, the National Security Council, the Senate and House Intelligence Committees, now more the Senate, because the House is in control of the GOP. So previously it was Shifty Schiff, remember him, at the House Intel Committee. And so that is the fourth branch of government, because they hold the secrets. They hold the secrets. They can blackmail people over. They can hold secrets. They could plant stories, manufacture evidence in crimes. Show me the man, I'll show you the crime. That is technically the fourth branch of government. You're right. The secret police, if you will. And Jim Jordan updates us on the attempt by Alvin Bragg. Remember, Jordan wanted Bragg to testify. Bragg is now suing Jim Jordan for interfering in his investigation. And now I just learned that a judge has ruled that he will not side with Bragg on this. So he's going to have to go to a full panel of judges in New York or wherever the court is, so that they would rule on it. But a single judge said, I'm not going to get involved in that. It's going to have to be everybody. And Jim Jordan says this is what Bragg is after.
Alvin Bragg used federal funds to indict a former president for no crime. And then when we ask questions about it, when we want to investigate, he takes us to court.
And who's obstructing who?
Yeah, right.
Okay, Alvin Bragg is trying to obstruct or interfere in the 2024 presidential election. Trump is leading all the polls. I just went through it. He's way up on Ron DeSantis. And I keep hearing this idea they want Trump, and this idea that they want him to be the nominee. Therefore, I don't buy that for a second. They've tried to take him out from day one. Mm-hmm. This is more of the same. They are scared. They're terrified of Donald Trump.
And they're planning his trial date around his debate, right?
February would be the Iowa caucus.
Right.
And they're trying to, his trial would start in January, just a month before that.
Yep.
Come on. Mm-hmm. This is clearly a political hit piece. Mm-hmm. And Jordan says he knows it.
They're obstructing our investigation, Brett. We have a constitutional duty to get to the facts, particularly when you have a district attorney interfering with the most important election we have, which is election of the commander in chief, the president of the United States.
Absolutely. So that's what they're after, and that's what they will do if they're left to their own devices. Meanwhile, the FBI, we learned this week, infiltrating Catholic parishes because they were not only are parents domestic terrorists, Christians, traditional Catholics, the ones that like the Latin Mass and when the altar was turned the other way where the priest was not facing the people. But they said there's some kind of movement within the church that the FBI needed to monitor. Really? I'm sure you weren't monitoring much of via Antifa or BLM. These were actual groups out there committing violence and killing people.
Or monitoring social media.
Yeah.
And finding some of these shooters. They could find them on social media with some of their buzzwords and terms that they're using.
Well, based on the events of the last 3 weeks, I'd be looking at the trans community pretty closely now. Mm-hmm. Not that everyone has a problem, but Hawley says this is outrageous.
They are infiltrating churches. They are trying to spy on us. They regard churches, apparently, as the enemy and church-going Americans as akin to terrorists. And the Attorney General sat right there and told me, no, we don't do that. And now we know they do, in fact, target churches, and they have been.
Yeah, and then another investigation has just been launched. The Congressman Massey and the House Judiciary Committee have launched a probe into reports that the Biden regime was pressuring the FDA to approve the COVID booster jab. before it was ready. So that's another investigation that just opened up as well. All right, time for a new sponsor here on the Sean Casey Show, a podcast for patriots. It's a timely one. Apparently, sales of Bud Light have been hitting rock bottom. And yes, now they have to come back and reach out even to our audience and try to convince us once again to drink the queen of beers.
When you open a Bud Light, things begin to change.
I love beer, but I also want to keep my figure. Hey, wait a second.
Everyone else in this bar drinking Bud Light is a chick. Hold on. You don't suppose that we're,
Bud Light is for who you really are, deep down inside.
Hey, which way to the men's room?
Right around the corner, but there's a line for the stall.
Bud Light's already transitioned into hard seltzer, and maybe now it's your turn.
If we order any more Bud Lights, the bartender said he's cutting us off.
Wait, what's getting cut off now?
Bud Light, part of the rainbow of beverages from Anheuser-Busch.
I think we should boycott Bud Light and switch to mimosas.
Or better yet, Cosmos.
Or Pussycats.
Right. Thanks to our new sponsor, Bud Light, on that one. Appreciate that. You want to hear some real transanity? That's what I call trans insanity. I got to tell you, I picked this up on libs of TikTok, and this is just a one for the ages. Listen to this trans activist on what's normal and what isn't.
Y'all really want to try to say there aren't trans kids? Let me tell you what there aren't. There aren't cis kids. Okay, you telling your child, oh, you're a boy, you're a girl. This is a child. This is a free spirit that has not learned any of that bullshit, and so you force it on them.
Yeah, so it's the trans. What they're saying, trans are normal. It's the cis kids with the sickness.
Cisness is the wound. Cisness is the delusion. Cisness is the lie. Cisness is the place of pain. Transness is the healing. Transness is the growth. Transness is the truth. Transness is what we actually are. We are fluid. We are 70% water. We are God. God is change. God is trans. We are trans. You are forcing your kids to be boys and girls.
Folks, that's mental illness on display for you. I hope that individual gets the help that he needs. And I have one question for the trans community. If you believe that trans women are women, why do you put the trans before it? Or vice versa? Mm-hmm. If you believe you actually are women, then you would be women. You wouldn't be trans women.
And I can't take any of this cis stuff. Like, get rid of it. It's not cis anything. It's male or female. It's double X or it's XY. I mean, let's get down to biology. Let's follow the science.
Well, there's one guy that wants to follow the biology. He's the lieutenant governor of the state of North Carolina. His name is Mark Robinson. And from the pulpit the other day, he delivered a Who Struck John sermon on biological males, females, and those who are gender confused. Let's listen and watch.
The transgender movement in this country, if there's a movement in this country that is demonic and that is full of the spirit of Antichrist, it is the transgender movement. Two genders. You can go to the doctor and get cut up. You can go down to the dress shop and get made up. You can go down there and get drugged up. But at the end of the day, you were just a drugged up, dressed up, made up, cut up, man or woman. It's time for grown-ups and time for Christians to start standing up and being unafraid to tell the truth. They're dragging our kids down into the pit of hell, trying to teach them that mess in our schools. That ain't got no place at no school. 2 + 2 don't equal transgender. It equals 4. We need to get back to teaching them how to read instead of teaching them how to go to hell.
Robinson. He's one of the all-time greats, lieutenant governor of North Carolina.
God bless him.
Mark Robinson. He speaks truth to power, as they say. Time for our cringe moment of the day. And this goes to a California congresswoman. Her name is Katie Porter. And I want you to get out the world's smallest violins and get ready to play the pity party song for Katie Porter.
The truth is It's like you're hot, you're late, you're sweaty, you don't know what's going on, you're flying back and forth. Congress is a mess, and that's because democracy is kind of supposed to be messy. The truth is, it's hard. It is hard to go to work every day with Marjorie Taylor Greene as a colleague.
Please tell me you're joking.
That was a joke.
Is it a joke? Are you joking?
Big joke.
The joke made at your expense, and I'm sorry.
That was an absolutely brilliant joke.
What a joke. Great joke.
Somebody's making a joke. Forget it.
Yeah, she's a joke.
She can get out.
$170,000 and all the freebies that they get. And oh my God, she's hot and she's sweaty. And she has to travel all the way from California.
Maybe it's menopause.
Yeah, it didn't seem to bother Nancy Pelosi too much now, did it? Or Dianne Feinstein, or Barbara Boxer, or Kamala Harris. They seem to somehow cope with the really hard job. Jeez. Where do they get these people? All right, California, there's still hope. While I'm talking about that, we should mention our Pockets of Patriots, because La Mirada, California, is in number 4 for downloads this week. So, yep, there's still hope for California. They're still downloading the Sean Casey Show. D.C. number 1, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Berlin, Maryland. They're on the Eastern Shore, down near Ocean City. They clock in with a lot of downloads this week as well. Time for the unhinged moment.
Donald J. Trump is now president of the United States.
Well, leave it to Whoopi Goldberg and the ladies of The View once again to step in it, this time after a recent string of deadly, the emphasis on the word deadly, tornadoes ripped through parts of Missouri and elsewhere. Arkansas, I believe, was the other state. She, again, tried to tie the deadly tornadoes and the victims that perished in their tornadoes to her climate change agenda. Here's Whoopi Cushion Goldberg.
And the idea, I've noticed in the last, 7 months, there hasn't been much denying of climate change going on.
Yeah.
You haven't heard them. It used to be, well, I don't believe it. It's never happened. It's never. Yeah. And now they're like, yeah, I think my house just got blown down. Yeah. For the 4th or 5th time, because there's been so much evidence saying something is wrong.
Yeah.
Find that hard to believe.
People died.
Yeah.
People had their homes destroyed. And there were those cackling hens, including the so-called conservative, she's a fake, phony, and a fraud, Alyssa Farah, and the audience laughing about it. You'll see if it's so funny if it ever happens to you.
Right.
So, this is just amazing. There's no empathy for these liberals who want you to, feel sorry for, it's their special interest groups that we are supposed to feel sorry for. They only play the victim when there's a political gain or benefit to them. They could care less if other Americans, and there I'm sure were Democrats and Republicans who had their homes destroyed, who lost their lives in those deadly tornadoes. And by the way, those tornadoes have been around a long, long time.
I was going to say Tornado Alley. I mean, how long has it been?
That's why it has a name.
Tornado? Yeah.
The thing that's gotten better with it is that radar. We have much better warning systems now. Before, whenever the conditions, I knew a friend of mine grew up in Tornado Alley. He said they spent a lot of time in their basement because they'd rather safe than sorry.
Yep.
So whenever there was a storm in the area, whether there was a tornado warning or not, they went to the basement, they wrote it out.
And
now they pretty much know. Now they pretty much know when our tornado is coming.
Yep. A lot of those basements had kitchens in it that was summer kitchens.
Right.
That's why.
Yeah, because they had to stay down there for, some of these in the Midwest, some of the storms they can roll through there for several hours.
Yes.
Not just,
all day.
You may be used to a thunderstorm that's 15, 20 minutes. Some of those thunderstorms that roll through the Midwest can be 15, 20 hours.
That's the real rolling thunder there.
Yeah, you're right about that, Joe. Yeah. All right. If you have a comment, if you'd like to send us an email, we'd love to hear from you. The Sean Casey Show @gmail.com. That's the Sean Casey Show @gmail.com.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
And thanks again on this hump day to our executive producer, Joe Hosny Armacost.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Hey, good to see you. Thanks for jumping in. Our associate producer, XX, Michelle Drusilla.
You're welcome.
Hey, Michelle.
To other producers, we have, of course, Hunter and Logan Casey. We're back on Friday. Until then, stay free.
Hey.
Hey!